We're back with Season of Ghosts. Season of Ghosts. How to use this guide. Welcome. Welcome to the Season of Ghosts adventure path. This player's guide will help you prepare for a horror-themed campaign set in the rural regions of the nation of Shenmen, where your characters play the roles of hometown heroes who must rise to the occasion and defend the people of Willow Shore from a sinister curse and all manner of supernatural threats, while also preparing for what might be a particularly cruel winter season. You'll begin as first level characters who, if you haven't lived in Willow Shore your whole lives, have come to be recognized and welcome as locals after arriving in town in the recent past. This adventure path is split into 4 parts, each taking place during a different season as your PCs grow more powerful and the threats facing Willow Shore grow deadlier and more shocking. The adventure path features some particularly significant plot twists and revelations, so if you've had some of those surprises revealed to you, please consider other players' experiences before spoiling the secrets that await discovery during the latter parts of the Season of Ghosts. To plan this campaign, campaigns and other accessories to further customize your character, especially since this campaign is set on the continent of Chinsia, where most common ancestries, face, and other elements aren't the same as those assumed in a campaign set in the Inner Sea region. On the following page, what is the Season of Ghosts? The first few weeks of summer, when the woodlands see an increase in haunting spirit and undead. While the cause of the increased haunting is uncertain, these ghosts often lure people to their deaths. In Willowshore, a massive feast and festival takes place on the last day of spring, called the Reenactment Festival. This gala is meant not only to celebrate the end of spring, but to trick the evil spirits and ghosts believed to come out of the woods during the few weeks of summer. As the festival's feast concludes, the town reenacts victims being snatched away by the ghosts. Those not involved in the fall abduction pretend to plunge into collective panic as designated whalers mourn loudly, while others play a search and rescue effort. This farce is believed to trick real ghosts into thinking that someone has already haunted the settlement, and thus trick them into seeking a happier village to inflict misery upon. Once the Season of Ghosts begins the next day on the first day of summer. As fate would have it, the PCs are chosen this year to play the role of the town's abductees. So, once you're abducted from the feast, where and when on Golarion, the Season of Ghosts adventure path takes place exclusively in a small part of ruined Shenmen, a haunted nation in the middle of the continent of Shinsia. Specifically, the bulk of the adventure path happens in and around the town of Willowshore, which is presented in further detail beginning on the page 15. Of greater note is the time in which the Season of Ghosts take place. Unlike other adventure paths, the events of Season of Ghosts takes place roughly over the course of a year, starting on the first day of summer in the year 1708 IC, over 100 years in the past and only a few years after the start of the Age of Lost Omens. Carry you off into a forest clearing on the town's expert outskirts, where you're expected to stay overnight. With the first dawn of the summer, the abductees are ransomed by whoever's in charge of that year's reenactment festival. This year, that honor falls to one Cho Chun Hu, beloved leader of Willow Shore Millers, has promised to bring the ransom selection delicious breakfast delicacies to the PCs in the forest clearing the next morning for them to enjoy before leading them back to town to proclaim the reenactment festival a grand success. While it rains often in the summer, you luck out and spend a relatively, of course, staying overnight in any woodland carries some risk, and you all have plenty of time to prepare. You can bring all your starting items and gear as determined during character creation to have with you during begins when you and the other PCs awaken in a forest clearing on the first day of summer. But there's no sign of Cho Chun Hu in the breakfast. There's very little work in this regard, as Willow Shore is a remote rural location that for the first several years of the Age of Lost Omens was largely ignored. The Age of Lost Omens began in 7106, during which the powerful storms wrecked much of Golarion. Willow Shore was no exception, and the winter storms that blasted the region were among the worst in memory. Now, 2 years later, the people of Willow Shore are somewhat nervous about the coming winter season. Even though the winter of 7107 was relatively mild, memories of the snow, high winds, and torrential rains of 7106 linger. The collapse of the Empire of Lungwa is a less immediate concern to Willow Shore. Even on the larger regional scale, this political upheaval would be one of the most important events to shape modern Xinxia. While Shenmen's rule under Lungwa ends in 7106, the fact that small towns like Willow Shore had traditionally been largely ignored and left to their own devices under governors installed by Lingua edicts has largely sheltered Willow Shore from ramifications, even 2 years after the Empire's collapse. Willow Shore is fortunate that the governor assigned by the Empire, a man named He Shanbao, is relatively benign as far as tradition goes, and if anything, the lack of a yearly tax collector or other imperial visitors have resulted in idyllic seasons in the rural town. Meanwhile, the mayhem of a collapsed empire has led to violence and upheaval in more urban areas. The largest change that hit Willow Shore as the result of Lungua's collapse was the abandonment of the town by various lumber lords, who left their estates and lumber camps rather than continue to supply the demands of the city of Siz, the closest large settlement to Willow Shore. For the people of Willow Shore, the loss of these unpleasant long-term visitors was seen on Mo have taken control of Shenmen remains at this point a ghost story or a scary rumor. No Jorogumo has visited Willow Shore yet, at least as far as anyone knows. Likewise, news that the ruler of the city of Siz has died and returned as a ghost has reached town, yet not everyone believes those stories. The people of Willow Shore are content to live as they always have, for now. More of a polyglot than anything, and not intended to, uh, you know, emulate specifically any one culture. Character suggestions. The following information not only provides context for creating characters that a character that will fit well in the overall storyline of Season of Ghosts. Alignments. The heart of the Season of Ghosts lies in the town of Willowshore, a rural community of a couple hundred people with varying alignments, yet the primary alignment in Willowshore includes neutrality but skews markedly away from evil. Furthermore, a fair amount of this adventure path relies on PCs being motivated through compassion to protect their fellow townfolk without any particular promise of monetary rewards. As a result, evil alignments aren't a great fit for this adventure path, as always though, as long as the individual PCs are important. Ancestries. As a citizen of the town of Willowshore, the most appropriate ancestries to choose for a PC are those which represented significantly in the town. Common ancestries. The following ancestries are all represented to a certain degree in Willowshore. Humans are far and away the most numerous ancestry in Willowshore, with all of Chinchia's human ethnicities being represented. Shenmen's proximity to nations like Jinin and Quanlai have ensured a noticeable number of elves, half-elves, and tengus in the nation's towns, and Willowshore is no exception. Humans of Talden, ethnicity, and halflings, largely folks emigrated from the nation of Amamander, just north of Shenmen, are present in Willowshore as well. Kitsune and Nagaji animosity. While the people to Willowshore arise in the campaign, sounds like it will come up. Players of Tengu characters should take note. Your GM has advice in the adventures on how to handle such situations, so if you have concerns about playing a Tengu PC, speak to your GM so they can provide advice customized to your table in a way your GM feels comfortable with. Uncommon ancestries. These ancestries are less common in Willowshore. There might only be a handful living in town or none, besides potential PCs. But all these ancestries are thematically appropriate for Season of Ghosts. You might wish to speak to your GM before selecting one. Advanced Player Guides, Ancestry, Dhampir, Planar Scions. Core ancestry, dwarves, gnomes, and goblins aren't present in notable numbers in Willowshore, but any of these people could have emigrated south from Amamander to settle there. Pathfinder Lost Omens Ancestry Guide Ancestries. Unlike Aasimars, tieflings who dwell in Shenmen tend to come from one of two lineages. Like Aasimars who traveled the west across the Sea of Ghosts, Riftmark tieflings descended from Qliphoth influence aren't unknown in Shenmen. Tieflings are often regarded with fear and suspicion by those in Willowshore, but NPCs such an ancestry in Season of Ghosts is already known to other townfolk as an exception to the expectation. Hobgoblin, yeah. Any other ancestry not mentioned above or in inappropriate ancestries below is considered rare. While these ancestries can certainly work from a game balance perspective, they aren't particularly on theme for the Season of Ghosts. If you wish to play a rare ancestry, speak with your GM first. Inappropriate ancestries. Aquatic ancestries will find themselves literally out of their element. Willowshore is located on the banks of a river and has a lake at its heart, so there will be a source of water to dwell in, but speak with your GM before making such a choice for your character. Androids are inappropriate for this campaign as well, since Season of Ghosts is set roughly 100 years before the events of the Iron God's adventure path. Androids simply haven't spread far enough beyond the borders of Numeria to be logically encountered elsewhere in the world. If you wish to play an android in Season of Ghost, you'll need to work with your GM to adjust your game's canon as needed to provide a logical in-world reason for an android's presence in Willowshore. Classes. In Season of Ghost, your characters are assumed to be citizens of Willowshore, while Willowshore only has a population of 225, excluding your PCs. The town's history and placement make it open toward a wide range of potential character classes, to be represented by its newest cast of heroes. Alchemists are respected and adored in Willowshore both for their skill and talent in crafting fanciful distractions for festival. Local herbalist Yo Sojin of Graveside Manors focuses more on the herbalism side, but access to her alchemist lab and supplies, should you earn her support and friendship, will be of great use. The Shirajin research field is the most appropriate thematic choice for a Willowshore alchemist, but any research field will be of equal use in Season of Ghosts. Barbarians might be a complex choice for a Season of Ghosts considering the lack of any established barbarian clans in the region. Though there are no barbarian NPCs in Willowshore, there are plenty of locals who enjoy a good fight or appreciate physical strength. An animal instinct barbarian might be valued for their skills at hunting, while a spirit instinct barbarian might find themselves respected as a defender against the evil spirits that locals fear, and will certainly find their ability to harm incorporeal foes more easily to be a great boon during many combat encounters in Season of Ghosts. Other instincts don't have a particular thematic tie to Willowshore, but none of them are particularly poor choices overall for this adventure path. Bards will have many opportunities to influence NPCs, craft singular performances, or use music to their advantage at various points during Season of Ghosts, but no specific bard is more advantageous over another in this adventure path. If you select Enigma as your move, Tan Sui Jing, an ancient folk hero whose accomplishments in the past are now a part of Willowshore's legacy, or Great Willow, the strange Kodama kami associated with the towering willow tree of the same name that looms atop a hill north of town might be fun choices. Willowshore Kazuma Ono, the director who runs the Seven Colored Songbird Theater, is known to periodically audition performers. Champions are all appropriate for Season of Ghosts, provided their tenants don't set them up to clash against the rest of the party. Clerics should consider the additional information presented under Face for guidelines on which deity to worship. Druids will have an ample opportunity to excel in Season of Ghosts as a result of the Adventure Pass focus on a year's worth of seasons, and the town of Willowshore being a rural location. Temperate forests are the primary natural terrain featured in this adventure path. The Druid orders of Animal, Leaf, and Storm are the most thematically appropriate choices for this adventure path, but all orders will find opportunities in this campaign. The following animals are the most common in the region surrounding Willowshore, so choosing one of them as your animal companion will also be on theme. Arboreal sapling, badger, bat, bear, beetle, bird, boar, cat, horse, snake, or wolf. Fighters will find ample opportunity to shine in Season of Ghosts, but it's important to remember that there are a lot of urban and downtown elements. Sorry, just a moment. Consider bolstering your training in a skill like crafting, diplomacy, intimidation, or society so that during the non combat portions, gunslingers aren't a particularly good choice thematically. Beyond that, there are no resources for gunslingers to rely on. Inventors aren't common, but they're hardly unknown, and their knack for rigging up contraptions and creative solution can be quite valuable in a rural area like Willow Shore, where access to a wider range of rare specialized tools and gear isn't guaranteed. Investigators will find opportunities to research information, track clues, and unravel mysteries during the course. Kineticists are a fine choice for Season of Ghosts. There isn't much thematic support. If you wish, particularly the theme of Witigans. Magi will find their abilities useful, but aren't particularly tied thematically. Of course, that also means a mage's character will be relatively free from thematic Um, clashes when making choices about increasing their power. Monks are a strong thematic choice for Lashore, a town that was originally founded to serve as support for a remote monastery. While that monastery, the Tansugi Monastery, is now in ruins, there are plenty of places that a monk's lifestyle can be rewarding in Willowshore proper, if only as a part of the town's rich history and legacy. See Faith below for additional guidance on religion or belief. Oracles are perhaps a stronger thematic choice than clerics as far as divine spellcasters are concerned. Most oracle mysteries are strong thematic choices. Psychics aren't represented among Willowshore's citizens, but their magical practices are known and admired. Those who focus their studies and powers on themes associated with lore, discovering ancient secrets, or battling forces will find themselves with no shortage of opportunity in Season of Ghosts. Rangers are quite valued. Their survivalist abilities and hunting acumen allow the town to maintain self-sufficiency. The town's Silvermist Lodges are the traditional locations where local rangers would gather, but today a ranger can be based out of nearly any location in town or the hinterlands beyond. If you gain an animal companion, consult the suggestions above for druids. If you take the favored terrain feat, the terrain of force is far and above the most common terrain you'll face. Rogues will find many use for their skills in Season of Ghosts, particularly when it comes to those associated with navigating the politics of a small rural town. Consider the advice for skills later in this player guide when choosing where to focus your training. Sorcerers are an excellent choice, as Willowshore is steeped in many supernatural and mysterious traditions. All sorcerer bloodlines could be equally interesting, but the most thematically appropriate ones are Imperial, Psychopomp, or Undead. Summoners should consider the regions surrounding Willowshore when building their Eidolon, but apart from that, they'll have a wide range of choices. The most thematic choices for Eidolons in this adventure path are Anger, Phantom, Beast, Devotion Phantom, Plant, or Psychopomp. Swashbucklers similar to fighters. Uh, just consider your downtime options. Uh, Thaumaturges are excellent choices. Like the investigator, they'll be faced with a wide range of mystery, ancient secrets to explore. All thaumaturge influence could find thematic links to build from in this campaign, but perhaps none more so than the lantern. Considering Willishore's strong tradition with its elemental lantern. While you can't select this particular lantern as your implement, a lantern crafted in its image would fit right in. Witches are even more thematically than sorcerer due to their ties with a mysterious patron and their horror-adjacent themes built right into the class. Speak with your GM when choosing your patron for additional guidance, but patron themes of curse, night, wild, and winter are always going to be excellent choices. When choosing a familiar, keep in mind that Willowshore is associated with a traditional guardian along its eastern edge in the form of a large stone spider in a shrine just off the road. Um, Wizards, it's not having that much to say. Face. Willowshore features two temples, one devoted to Daikitsu and one to Pharasma. But the townsfolk are much more diverse in their faith. In addition to these two faces, both Abadar and Lady Nanbio count many worshippers among their flock. Most townfolk pay homage to a wide array of other deities. Their worship is reflected in a large number of small shrines to various faiths scattered throughout town. Some of these shrines, like those devoted to Daigitsu and Pharasma, are in well-known locations, but many are in private shrines or locations that have all been forgotten. Shrines to the following deities are found in Willowshore. If your character worships one of these deities, they'll automatically know their location of that shrine. Abadar, Callistra, Daikitsu, Desna, Kedifis, Kofusachi, Lady Nambio, Lao Shupo, Nalinvita, Nalinivati, Pharasma, Kijong, Shelin, Shiziru, Tsukio, and Yazing. If you choose to worship a deity beyond those listed here, speak to your GM. Certain faiths, such as those of Arazni, Cassandali, or Nocticula, either don't yet exist or haven't yet undergone the changes they made in the last 100 or so years after the start of the Age of Lost Omens. Likewise, while Aroden's death is only a few years in the path, his faith isn't significant in this region. Your characters should avoid worshipping such deities as a result of this Adventure Pass timeline. Beyond the town's wide range of deities, many in Willowshore are followers of Sangpochi. Indeed, the original founders of the town were adherents to this belief. They built up the Tansugi Monastery up in the hills to the west as a remote place to pursue enlightenment. Through this philosophy, and they founded Willowshore to first support those who toiled to build the monastery, and later as a trade hub to support the monks. The Tansugi Monastery is now abandoned as left to ruin, and some maintain to various ghosts and monsters, but many in Willowshore still follow the path of Sangpochi. In Season of Ghosts, the primary language spoken is Tian. This language is referred to as common in this guide and throughout the Season of Ghosts path. The languages of any of the common ancestries listed above might find frequent use as well. General use languages that aren't as useful for the campaign but might be situationally important for the following number of encounters include Celestial, Draconic, Goblin, Huan, Minkayan, Requiem, and Samsarin. You'll face a wide range of challenges and opportunities in Season of Ghosts, particularly when it comes to downtime. This adventure path spans an entire year. You'll be spending weeks at a time pursuing various downtime activities. Of the 4 skills associated with magical traditions, nature, and religion have significant opportunities to shine. Arcana comes into its own more in the second half, as does occultism. Skills that help with social interaction will see constant use. Being able to subsist and be self-sufficient or helping the remote town with the same goals makes survival an important skill. Crafting becomes important after the first adventure concludes to help build, repair, or otherwise use the skill. Performance might be situationally useful. An extensive number of lore skills are helpful in this campaign. Often when downtime activity becomes available, a specific lore skill will have a lower DC than some more generalized skills. The most important lore skill in this adventure path is Willowshore lore, as one would expect of a campaign set almost entirely within and around this small town. Other important lore skills that will have more than a couple opportunities to shine include academia, art, engineering, farming, hunting, library, Sangpochi, and tea lore. Lore skills that will only have one or two chances to shine include any to do with non-tea, food or drink, architecture, cooking, fish and fortune-telling, games, or genealogy. Guild, herbalism, Jorogumo, labor, mercantile, midwifery, Kijong, river sailing, scouting, theater, underlore, and warfare lore. Archetypes, or no, one new lore skill worthy of note that isn't represented in the core rulebook but will be useful in this campaign is one associated with a specific family of new monster introduced in Season of Ghosts. Once your group discover this new type of monster, becoming trained in its lore will help you prepare for combat against them or otherwise research plot elements to come, but not having any particular training in this skill when you begin with Season of Ghosts is not only fine, but part of the unfolding plot of the campaign. It's mentioned here merely to prepare you for future opportunities for those players who enjoy building their characters' level choices out beforehand. You should avoid feats that work best in large cities or that rely upon long distance travel, as these elements won't play a role in Season of Ghosts. Feats that help you interact with other townsfolk, bolster your ability to be self-sufficient, and would generally prove useful to anyone living out a year of their life in a remote woodland town will be more useful than normal. Archetypes. As you grow more powerful, the option to select an archetype can help you further customize your character, make them more thematically appropriate for Season of Ghosts. Most multi-class archetypes work well, with the exception of Gunslinger. Other themes include the following: Blessed One, Bounty Hunter or Duelist, Herbalist, Horizon Walker, Lore Master, Martial, or Martial Artist. The Ritualist archetype is particularly well suited to this campaign, as Season of Ghosts features a wide number of rituals and offers many opportunities to use them. Gear. Season of Ghosts takes place in Shanxia. As such, the following uncommon weapons from the core rulebook are accessible to every PC upon character creation: Kama, Katana, Nunchaku, Sai, Shuriken, and Temple Sword. The following uncommon weapons from Advanced Player Character Guide are accessible to every PC character upon creation: Daikyo, Kakara, Tengu, Galeblade, and Wakizashi. Following are as well. An asterisk indicates the option is also an advanced weapon. Backgrounds. Unlike most adventure past, Season of Ghosts takes place almost entirely in and near the town of Willowshore and assumes the PCs are all long-term citizens of this settlement. As such, it's likely that your PC has family or close friends in town. You should work with your GM to create these additional NPCs to help populate Willowshore. Each of the custom backgrounds offered in the player's guide come with suggestions on where your PC lives in town, so you can use these suggestions to help decide who in your character's family is in town and who might not be. But keep in mind, if you decide to have important family members located outside of the Willowshore hinterlands, you likely won't be able to visit them during the campaign. When you create a character for Season of Ghosts, you can choose one of the following two methods for selecting your character's background. Standard background. If you wish to simply pick a standard background from the core rulebook, good thematic choices for Season of Ghosts include artisan, bounty hunter, charlatan, criminal, detective, entertainer, farmhand, gambler, guard, herbalist, hermit, hunter, laborer, martial, disciple, merchant, scholar, street urchin, and warrior. Additional standard backgrounds are available in Advanced Player's Guide. Good thematic choices from that book include cook, pilgrim, root worker, servant, teacher, or ward. Instead of gaining a specific seasonal boon, you instead gain the option to once per season gain a +4 bonus to a check attempted to resolve any downtime activity. The 6 new backgrounds presented on the following pages are available to all characters in the Season of Ghosts adventure path. Each of these rare backgrounds are tailor-made to match the themes of this adventure path and include a bit of flavor about the reenactment festival and why you were chosen to be one of the abductees. Each of these backgrounds grant a seasonal boon. You can use a seasonal boon at any time as a free action, but only once per season. If you don't use a seasonal boon, it's lost. Unused seasonal boons don't carry out to the next adventure. Wow. This is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I kind of expected this to be a short 10 to 15 page thing. Close ties. You forged a close friendship with one of Willowshore's notable citizens, have a long tradition of sharing tea. Your home is likely relatively close to the place of business of your ally. During the festival, you likely spent time and made plans to get together on the next day. You were chosen because they suggested your participation. Choose 2 ability boosts. One must be charisma or intelligence, and the other is a free choice. You're trained in diplomacy skill and tea lore. You gain this specialty crafting skill. Seasonal boon. Someone in your party makes an NPC in Millowshire friendly. Effect, your reputation precedes you even if you aren't the one making the attempt to influence an NPC. The NPC is made helpful instead of friendly. Making an NPC helpful can unlock additional support. I don't think I'm going to read all of these backgrounds. Willowshore Urchin. As with any settlement, not all of Willowshore citizens are born into easy lives. You grew up on the town streets, either as an orphan or hardscrabble youth who was forced at a young age to help provide for their family. You might technically have had a home, but for various reasons, you lived most of your childhood outside of those walls. You might even have run with a gang, or you could have been a loner who managed to survive against all odds. Might still technically be homeless. During the reenactment festival, you likely enjoyed the revelry, perhaps a little bit too much. You're chosen to be an abductee simply by chance. Choose 2 ability boosts. One must be dexterity or strength, the other one is free. You're trained in athletics, and the engineering seems a bit of a strange choice. You gain the Charming Liar feat. I think I might have, if I was building, well, maybe it's for other. I think I would have chosen athletics and deception there. Seasonal boon trigger. Um, you or an adjacent PC are about to roll a recovery check. You gain an automatic critical success rather than rolling it, as your hardy physique, tenacious attitude, or just luck continues to help you survive. If you're adjacent to a PC who is about to roll a recovery check, you can instead use this boon to grant them the effect. So kind of just flavorful adjustments you can choose from. Handy chart about the suggested options. Uh, Home and heirloom. The final step for creating your Season of Ghosts character is to choose where you live in Willow Shore. The town map presented on page 16 shows all the buildings in Willow Shore. If you chose a Season of Ghosts background, that choice suggests where in Willow Shore your home is most likely to be located, but you need not be limited by this suggestion, as you can pick any unlabeled smaller building on the map as your character's home. Just a reminder to figure out the role you might want your family to have before starting. Once you've chosen your home, pick one of the following 4 sets of treasure. When you start Season of Ghosts, the treasure you selected is still stored back home. While you won't have access to it when the first adventure begins, it won't be long into the adventure before each PC will have the opportunity to gather their family treasures. When selecting these treasures, each player must choose a different option. 2 minor healing potions and 1 piece of common gear worth 2 GP or less. 1 predictable silver piece and a vial containing 1 dose of oil of potency. Supplies for an alarm snare and 2 lesser ghost charges. 1 cold iron chunk worth 10 GP. Willow Shore Gazetteer. In 7020, the Tansugi Monastery was founded by a Sangpo-shi monk named... What year is it? So 7... Okay, it's 7-1. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking it was like 7016, but okay. Um, Built around... That's, well, I mean, there was some upheaval, it seems like, in the wider world, but that seems a very short time frame for a monastery to be built and then abandoned. Um, Built around an ancient Sugi tree said to have mystic properties, the Tansugi Monastery was incredibly remote, nestled in a wooded valley within an unsettled reach of Specterwood. Willow Shore was originally founded to support those who built the monastery, and the long trail that connected the town to the monastery became known as the Pilgrim's Path. Once construction of the monastery ended, Willow Shore's focus shifted to an increasingly self sufficient lifestyle that only periodically needed to support the monks. Zihui passed away in 7054 as the monks of the monastery began to drift away. Willowshore itself started to focus on the lumber industry. By 706, the monastery had been abandoned when a group of woodcutters attempted to harvest the ancient sugi trees that grew there in 706. Tragedy struck. Um, the The woodcutters returned to Willowshore with broken weapons and unliving bodies that evening. While these undead woodcutters were defeated by morning, dozens of townsfolk had perished. This event is remembered today as the Night of Broken Blades, and few visitors have made the journey to the ruined monastery in the 46 years since. The place is regarded now as cursed, haunted, or worse. 8 practices. The people of Willowshore follow these 8 bits of advice during the first several weeks of summer. These beliefs are primarily local superstitions, and their capacity to actually help in an encounter with any sort of malicious spirit is hotly debated. Do not call a ghost a ghost. Do not pat people on the head or shoulders. Avoid entering bodies of water when a ghost is nearby. Do not eat food that has 2 stick-like objects protruding from it. Yeah, okay. I I think that's a general good thing, probably not to do. Do not lean against walls during the day. Do not whistle at night. Do not leave laundry out at night. If you hear someone call your name from behind at night, do not turn around. As the years wore on, Shenmen officially enlisted Willowshore to become of Linghua's lumber harvesting ambitions. Things started out well, with the construction of infrastructure, including bridges and a dam. However, lumber bosses who ran the operations soon became loath for their exploitation of Willowshore's past, whereas they began to present the settlement as a getaway for Linghua aristocrats to hunt for sport and indulge in food and drinks forcefully seized in the empire's name. When Linghua collapsed in 7106, Willowshore lumber lords took their wealth, abandoned their estates, and fled. Most of the soldiers stationed in town returned to Shenmen's capital or deserted their posts. Leaving behind those who had put down local roots, Willowshore's remoteness saved it from rampant banditry and external political conflicts that had begun to plague Shenmen. But as you will soon discover when you begin to play, the time has come for Willowshore to face the new world. Most of Willowshore's citizens identify by when their family first settled in town, affecting which bank of the Seba River they live on. The first wave of townspeople were either those who worked on the monastery or were paid to settle in Willowshore by the monastery. These folks originally lived south of the river and thus referred to as South Bankers. Meanwhile, those who arrived after Linghua took control settled on the river's northern banks, called Northridge, due to its prominent incline. These settlers included workers for the lumber bosses, businesses that wanted convenient access to the lumber, and imperial guards. Though these 2 factions in Willowshore today use the names South Bank and Northridge, one's allegiance isn't solely determined by where they live or work. South Bank's residents are traditionalists keen on maintaining Willowshore's culture, living simply off the land. Northridge residents, meanwhile, focus on pragmatism and urban growth. Many in Northridge are open to the idea of Jorogumo ruling Shenmen, while South Bankers on principle think Jorogumo are evil monsters and best avoided. Despite disagreements, both sides have a consensus on putting Willowshore's survival and safety first. Plenty of residents have their own opinions that lean in either direction and consider themselves unaffiliated with either faction. Overall, Willowshore values giving all one has to offer in many ways. The village has no choice, especially in the events of this adventure evolve. As you play Season of Ghosts, your actions and choices will, as a group, build reputation with those factions. Your GM has all the rules and guidance needed to track reputation and implement its effects in the game as play progresses. Current trending topics in Willowshore focus on the recent exodus of the Lumberlords, rumors of Jorogumo's seizing control of the nation, and preparations for the upcoming season of Ghosts. Not going to read most of that since that's basically all been covered before. Um, Teeth clenching teamwork. Willow Shore's residents help one another despite differences. You can attempt to request help from another resident, even if they're indifferent or unfriendly, but you do so with a -2 circumstance penalty. So we look like we've got some noticeable people here. Granny Hu Banyang, female Tianshu, retired guard captain, retired Imperial Guard captain. Old Mitsuki Sho, uh, neutral good, male Chanshu family patriarch, retired carpenter, and Willow Shore's living history. Hei Shanbo, a lawful neutral, male Chanshu governor appointed administrator of Willow Shore. Willow Shore locations, significant buildings, and important people found in Willow Shore are detailed on the following pages. Unlabeled buildings are wooden structures that might be shops, homes, farmhouses, storerooms, or have other usage depending on their location. And with permission, might be selected for homes for any PC. Monastery's construction. The Eternal Blaze Ironworks was responsible for creating metal items such as cookware, working tools, and small metal parts. Yang Wu-shu, female kitsune blacksmith, inherited the business from her father about a decade ago. Wears metalworks adventure gear, especially cookware, metal armor, metal weapons, metal shields. Venturing very close east there, Willow Shore Stables. Willow Shore Stables is the town's veterinary facility for household animals, pets, and livestock. Many households avoid the consumption of beef. The owner, Kum Sun Chong, male human veterinarian, and his teenage son, Meng Sung, are well known for their affable attitudes and compassion for all animals. W3, a bit north there along the river, limestone statue of Abadar that holds a shovel in one hand and trowel in the other. The statue was reportedly taken to Goka first to ritualistically invite Abadar's divine blessings at the Grand Bank before being ferried back to Willow Shore. W4, his criminally settlers. Today, only a few families use graveside manors as a burial ground. The headstones remain free of lichen and moss thanks to the graveyard's keeper Yo Sojin, female elf herbalist, once a pilgrim who frequented the Tansugi Monastery. Sojin settled in Willow Shore after the monastery's collapse and maintains an herbalist shop. The primary reason anyone visits graveside manors today. Wears alchemical elixirs and tools, alchemical reagents, fresh and dried herbs. W5 Silver Mist Lodges. On the very outskirts of town, further southeast of the graveyard there. The Silver Mist Lodges are split between two small compounds in the woods south of town. At each location, the lodge's woodwork conforms to the grain of the wood, giving the buildings an organic look associated with elven architecture. In the days when Willow Shore first tried to become self-sufficient, 8 elven adventurers came and took up an offer to settle, bring and descendants behind. Animal parts, snare supplies. W6, back north into town, northeast of the Abadar Shrine. The man that Willow Shore calls Old Mitsuki, male human carpenter, once apprenticed to the head of the carpenter of the Tansugi Monastery. After taking leave from his master, he led his family to construct a large Tanshu Minkayan estate to house all 24 of them. Reportedly, the superstitious patriarch then made sure that the outer walls were whitewashed with limestone containing blessed salts and holy water. Today, Old Mitsuki is most influential of Willow Shore's South Bank faction and serves as the spokesperson. W7 is east of his estate, the Thrice Blessed Inn. Willowshore's Thrice Blessed Inn began as the Thrice Blessed Brothel, for it was founded by three clerks of Kofusachi, Calistria, and Shaylin. Political complications forced the brothers' owner, Mother Otis, to shut down the establishment only a few years before Lingua's collapse. With the aid of Willowshore's local lawyers, Mother Otis was able to rely upon an obscure law that prevented their eviction and allowed them to continue to operate the building as an inn. That sounds a bit too real. Southeast of the reformed, possibly, House of Pleasure is the Milling House. Willow Shore has numerous mill houses, including 2 powered by water, 3 by wind, and 10 powered by people or draft animals. The abundance ensures that losing 1 or 2 mills to routine maintenance or malfunction never jeopardizes the village's needs. Work at the mills is intense and the hours can be irregular due to the demand each day. The miller's leader, Cho Chung-Hu, male human miller, keeps morale high with encouragement, pushing back against unreasonable demand, keeping wages stable, offering midnight stacks. Uh, oh, well, that would be why it's too. I didn't notice there's actually one. I only saw the West House for W5. There's also that Far East one, but it did mention there were 2 lodges. I just assumed that meant 2 buildings in the more or less W9, an area to the east on the other side of what looks to be the most concentrated area of buildings in the southern part of the region. Nine-Year Shrine. This mud wall hut looks like a grain storage hut from the outside. Its interior descends 10 feet underground into an enclosed space lined with stone, in the middle of which sits a 15-foot tall marble statue of a 9-tailed fox. A large spiritual rope made of hay hangs off its neck. The walls of the basement are decorated with painted carvings that the treated allies of the family soon arrive to rescue the baby, at which the point the fox is vanished. That baby, Ba Ming O, uh, to the town of Willowshore by the family of the Tansugi Monastery, Zihui, for the town's entire action, but for the most part, the people of Willowshore have become used to the ever-burning lantern at the southern steps of the Dawn Step Bridge. W10, Lady of Souls. So it's in that large clearing in the south middle of town. One of Lingua's chief concerns when they first expanded into Willowshore was to reduce the likelihood of an undead uprising. They solved it by building a cathedral to Pharasma. Elizabeth Candora is a second generation Taldan from Goka, is the current priestess here. Having once visited Willowshore in the Tansugi Monastery as a child, Elizabeth never imagined that becoming a cleric of Pharasma would lead to an opportunity for her to permanently return to the village. Um, She vividly recalls she sees the coincidence as fate arranged by Pharasma hands and therefore serves dutifully and diligently. She's fond of spending time alone in the graveyard with her flute and often plays the instrument there to soothe the spirits of those recently buried therein. Wears consumable religious items, divine scrolls. centers of both the North and South Shore, and that is where the lantern was mentioned to be. After the thrice blessed brothel was established, but before it became an inn, Willow Shore's population had grown enough in size to be considered a town by Shenman standards, meaning that a lit lantern must be maintained at all times within the town, near the entrance, at a major crossroads, or at a bridge. The lack of a lit lantern at one of these locations suggests that the town is abandoned, which is believed to invite vermin, ghosts, dangerous beasts, and worse. Today, Willow Shores features two such lanterns, but the one that stands here, the Eternal Lantern, is both its oldest and most noticeable. W12 Industrial District. So that looks like the most densely populated part of or populated by buildings, part of the southern shore. Willow Shore's Lungwa lumber bosses had a host of other businesses related to material taken from the woods. Many industrial workers came to Willow Shore explicitly for this work, leaving family and friends behind. After the bosses left, Governor Hayes seized control and ordered the laborers to continue working. Upset that they had no choice in the matter, they've been gathering late at night under the guidance of Quokka, a senior bookmaker, to discuss how they should negotiate with the governor to release those who want to leave and fairly pay those who elect to stay. With the collapse of Lungwa, many of the businesses that once thrived here have closed up shop. The only ones still functioning are Cloud Paper House, Jadeite Essentials, a distillery, and Rebels Leather Works. Wares, alcohol, essential oils and perfume, glassware and glass items, hide and leather items, paper and paper products such as spell books and formula books. 13 Woodcraft Lake, so it looks like the heart of the lake there, maybe a pier or something jetting out. The first governor appointed to Wilshore by Lingua made an effort to tame the notorious Seba River through various engineering feats. Part of that effort, plus the demand for wet storage for wood, led to the construction of the Willow Shore Dam, and by extension, Wood Raft Lake. Many pro was completed in due time, while the governor earned themselves a promotion and left. They didn't get to enjoy it before a landslide buried them on a bright sunny day. While the story's veracity is somewhat dubious, subsequent governors have never stopped Willow Shore's villagers from treating the lake as a shrine to the widow suffering. W14 Willow Shore Dam. So that looks to be on the east side of the lake. Not sure. Feels feels like a weird location for a dam, but I don't know. Willow Shore's Dam is a minor engineering marvel. Its main body is constructed out of immense precisely fitted slabs of dark gray marble, carved with a carefully calculated curvature. The dam has two giant wooden gates that can be closed or opened to lower the level of the lake. Turning the wheel that controls the gates automatically causes a bell to ring, signaling anyone downriver to move away to safety. W15, downtown Willow Shore. So it looks like it considers the west center part of that northern side to be the downtown area. Downtown Willowshore maintains a major hub of activity. To the northeast stands the governor's home and office, which also serves as the village's bank and treasury. South of the manor lie the Imperial Barracks, commanded by Zhang Peng. To the north of the crossroad is the stage for the village weekly Shu opera performance, which is part of the Seven Colored Songbird Theater, a venue officiated over by Kazuma Ono, male kitsune director. Nearby, on opposite sides of the road, is west of Willowshore's busiest stores, Tree Sparrow's Rest, and Willowshore's only public bathhouse, the Happy Kappa. Tree Sparrows is a family-owned grocery store run by Nadoya Sanmi, uh, while the Happy Kappa's owner, Daige Hua, is famous in town for his obsession with cleanliness. Whereas alcohol, bathing, entertainment, grains, you consider that still in that downtown area, but to the northeast side. Uh, Lingua's laws, after being revised time again by self-serving rulers, are a bag of contradictions, allowing independent lawyers to make a decent living attempting to make sense of them, promised by the lords who invited her here that rural life would be less stressful. She arrived with only the essential 10-volume Imperial Compendium. Quickly, the lawyer discovered that Willowshore's legal issues were as complicated, if not more so, than what she'd previously encountered in the city of S. Thus, her library grew to a size that doubled the one in her former home. W17 Mercantile Street. Uh, to the east around. Ensure the lumber lords would never favor anyone, the woodcarvers came together to form a guild through which young apprentices have the opportunity to intern at different shops during their apprenticeship. Yun Mungun, the woodcarver's current elected guild leader, is a product of such training. Though heaped with praise for her work, Mungun would rather be a painter or jewelry maker. Wares, artwork, wood items, wooden religious symbols. We're just gonna skip those. We'll go ahead and read W20. I think we've gotten a pretty good feel for the town. Uh, so at this point, I'm not going to read every entry. Mother's Coil. I'm sorry. It looks like it's on the east in a sparsely located part of town on the north side, about two-thirds of the way from that downtown area uh, to the east extremity. Magic was traditionally seen in Wiltshire either as a manifestation of divine blessing. Thulcidus, an old Nagaji wizard, arriving about 15 years ago, thus bought a plot of land from a farmer looking to relocate to the city of Szz. Overnight, a Nagajor-style tower of dark basalt appeared, much to the awe of the villagers. Though curious about magic, most villagers find the topic to be formidable and unapproachable, not to mention impractical. Thus Angel had only one apprentice, Jubei, a child they rated that anyone dared endanger Jubei in as their own. Jubei has since grown into a capable young adult. While Angel's death last year was tragic, Jubei is determined to continue studying the arcane arts through the books her adopted parent left behind. wares, arcane and occult scrolls, formulas, recipes, wands. This will probably be the last one we read, the Cerulean Tea House. Although the Mushroom House at that top right on the outskirts of town does sound interesting too. Oh, sorry. Toy 5, it is on the left, kind of west side of that downtown area. There's more left than I thought. We might read one more after the house. Willow Shore's lumber bosses thought very highly of themselves. The idea of mingling with common folk rankled them. Aristocrat King Mai Lai's solution was the establishment of this structure close to their estates. The tea house took off quickly thanks to its plentiful offerings of extravagant food, drinks, and performances. However, once the novelty wore off, business quickly dried. Uh, Still, My Lai persevered, first by changing the tea house's focus to banquet catering, then by collaborating with the Leshy Salon as a storefront, and finally as a flexible bed and breakfast. Just days after the My Lai finally paid off the loan on the property, news of Langgua's collapse reached Willow Shore. My Lai called it quits at that point and announced her retirement, but her attempts to transfer control of the tea house to family met with complications after it became apparent that none of her relations wanted to move to Willow Shore. When My Lai passed away early in the previous winter, owner of the business was still undetermined, for My Lai never submitted a will. Today, the Cerulean Tea House stands vacant and is slowly falling into ruin. Western, very most outskirts of town. Willowshore, like many remote villages, has its own sets of laws. Grievous crimes were punished with exile unless the individual's skill or knowledge was needed. The punishment was then permanent imprisonment. Executions were rare, as being exiled into the Spectre Wood was often a death sentence itself. Particularly vile criminals had a mark tattooed, and after death, this tattoo was transferred to the bones through carving. Uh, Bodies with a mark of crime, be it from Willow Shore, another village, or Yanghua, can only be buried in this overgrown and unkept area. While graves were unmarked in the past, a few wooden posts have been erected recently. Town's borders lies the rugged terrain. Rolling forested hills rising to the verdant mount stands Willishore's closest neighbor, the coastal fortified market called Karahai. Yet even this location is at least a day's ride from town. The immediate hinterlands feature a number of minor sites of interest. The Dui River is the largest waterway in the region, with Willowshore founded on one of its tributaries, the Siba River. A shallower tributary, Dragonfly Creek, winds south to an open area of rugged stone known as the Gorge of Fangs and Teeth, a natural quarry that supplied the stone for Willow Shore's roads and foundations. Gourd Lake, downriver from Willow Shore, provides excellent fishing, but those who would ply its waters would do well to make offerings to the Kappas, who dwell in its depths and cavort on the southern shores. Green Silk Peak, nearly 2,000 feet high, is the highest point of elevation in the hinterlands of the natural sinkholes known as the Eyes of Fumiroshi. Oh, 2 miles. Oh, okay, Willow Shore's in the middle. But okay, where's trail? Uh, but so okay, you're leaving. Let's say, well, okay, let's say you're departing from town. Uh, so start, we'll count leaving town from that hex. Um, so you'd need 6. Or, oh, well, you'd probably. Okay, so if you're leaving to Krahai, I guess you could leave from the. Okay, so we'll count that um, as the hex of departure. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 20. That I mean, like, just a normal, not pushing it. I guess 5 miles an hour, maybe. So I guess that would just be a day of riding, maybe. And I guess I'm thinking, well, let's just say double, because walking with the pack and stuff, that's a good pace is probably like 2.5 miles an hour, and that's probably pushing it a little. So let's say you can do double that on a horse without stressing the animal. So yeah, that is like a good long day's ride, I guess, assuming Krahai is just over the border. Signs of habitation beyond Willow Shore are sparse in the region, but they do exist uh, and are largely abandoned. To the northeast stand burnt out ruins of an abandoned roadhouse once known as Canary Inn. Well, the stream that flowed through the area tended to dry up at random intervals each year. To the west, near the source of the Seba River, are the remains of the old lumber camp. Abandoned a few years ago by the local lumber lords, a location that's slowly being reclaimed by the forest. And in the low mountains northwest of town are the far end of the trail, known as the Pilgrim's Path, stand the ruins of the Tansugi Monastery, a place reputed today to be the den of monsters, ghosts, or worse. That's interesting because I thought, did I misread it? I thought it said the South Shore residents. Oh, well, I guess the road does directly lead from the South Shore there. Oh, no. Oh, no, I thought that it said the South Shore was the first inhabited and that the town was basically founded to build the monastery. So, I don't know. Um, it just seems weird if, since that's on, yeah, that road really goes along the north side of that river there. The forest surrounding Willow Shore is a part of the much larger woodland known as Spectre Wood. Although here in Willow Shore's hinterlands the haunts and ghosts notorious for plaguing these woods aren't as dangerous, wildlife is abundant, with deers and boars making the primarily large game in the region. To those who traveled in the town of Willow Shore and its immediate hinterlands, as presented on the map we're currently looking at. But there's a whole world out there. When events might send you beyond Willow Shore hinterlands, your GM will have the information you need, but it's easiest to focus on Willow Shore and its hinterlands when seeking inspiration to create your character. Brief notes about what lies beyond the hinterlands down the 6 roads and trails that lead off map are summarized below. Central Northern Road. This partially ruined road winds through several fields that have gone fallow and the ruins of a village that was abandoned many years ago, then eventually comes to an end at a large wetland known as Moon Marsh for the way the orange night blooming flowers that grow there shine under the moonlight. The Northeast Road, that looks like it goes by that inn. The road connects Willow Shore with numerous small but distant villages and towns scattered throughout Specterwood and eventually finds its way to the Gossamer Mountains. The next closest settlement down this road is Fox Hollow, but it's 3 days' travel and even smaller than Willow Shore. Eastern Road. This road leads to the trade fortress of Karahai and represents Willow Shore's major economic link to the rest of Shenmen. Karahai has a small village, quite a bit smaller than Willow Shore nearby, the trade fortress itself being one of the many economic hubs along the west coast of the Sea of Shores. Northeastern Road. This road leads to a recently established farmstead on a bluff overlooking the Sea of Ghosts, a cattle ranch owned by a notoriously ruthless expatriate politician from the city of Szz, who doesn't have much to do with Willow Shore. Northwest Trail. This old overgrown trail leads off into the forest. Most folks believe it leads to a long abandoned shrine, but few travel this remote path today. Southern Road. The Southern Road is a long overland route that eventually connects to better maintained roads and more populous villages. Particularly delicious fruit every fall. Um, so that will be it for tonight. Um, um, what I'm interested in, uh, but I'm glad I read this one first because it'll, be good to have what, they think is thematically appropriate before I, get into the nuts of what I want to make. Um, I most likely will be continuing around this time for the rest of the week since I do have um, a lot more that I would like to read or refresh myself on before um, it's time. But that will end things for right now.